Yeah, welcome back to the workshop, Handyman. Looks like we're going to get into a little carpentry project today. I've been needing to do something. Anyway, so the wife needed a new bed, and when we put that in, we put the adjustable base and all that in there. So now the bed is so darn tall that she can't hardly climb up into it. So she needs a couple of steps. So of course, I like to scrounge around and find some old wood laying around the shop, and we'll see if we can build something out of it. So I think what I want to do is I've got some tongue and groove boards, just a pile of leftover boards, and I think I'm going to use those for the sides. And then I have a piece of this, looks like an old piece of cedar, I think. We'll do that for the steps, I think, and then we'll cut a couple of runners, whatever. It's got a little color variation, but I think a lot of that'll sand out. We'll do something with it, kind of give it a little contrast. I think what I want to do is make this a two-step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these three, I'm going to glue them together, and that should give me about 14 inches of clear wood thereabouts, which is about what I want to do. A 7-inch tall step, probably about 7 inches deep, and probably something like 24 inches long. So I should have plenty here on this board to do the steps. And then we'll do some bracing in between the two of them, and we'll see what we come up with. So first thing I'll do is go ahead and get all these glued together, and we'll be able to cut this out, cut it down, cut it across, and should be able to get both of them out of that piece of wood that's, like I say, it's all it's going to be is 28 inches long. So we're going to get it just to there. We'll make sure they're evened up. We should have no problem getting 28 inches out of it. No measurements have to be exact, so we'll see what we can do with it. We'll start gluing. Okay, while that's drying up, I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of these other ones I've got. We're going to have some boards going across the back side for support and holding it together. So I'm going to cut these down and just make some 1-bys out of them, I believe. And we'll get those cut on the saw and have them ready to go together. By the time that gluing is done, we'll be able to start moving on, putting everything back together, hopefully. Okay, the first thing I did was cut the tongue off of this side, and I'm going to cut this down the side, and we'll make these both the same size. This saw, I better take those staples out of the end of it. Saw stops don't like metal, and I don't want to take a chance of killing that. And of course, you could build this out of, if you had some 1-bys just sitting around, you could use anything. I just happen to have this tongue and groove, so I'm going to make these work. They're just scrap pieces of wood anyway. So we'll go ahead and cut these in half. Get them all the same size. Okay, we've got all those cut exactly the same width on through. Now we'll have those ready to go when we're done with the sides. And the next thing I'm going to do is send this thing through the sander and get the top edge of this thing looking pretty anyways. And we'll probably put a little bit of a round over on the front edge of it and cut this to the length I want, which is approximately 24 inches. So we'll go ahead and sand this down and get it somewhat close to what we want. Okay, so to get caught up, I went ahead and had these all sanded down. We went ahead and just put a coat of polyurethane on these. Seems how it's not going to hurt anything. That's all we're going to have. I'm not going to have any kind of fasteners on the top side of it. So we'll let those dry. And then over here on the bench, we've got the other glued up. And so I'm going to do a couple of things with this. Let's see if we can go over it a little bit. Of course, the first step is going to be, I'm going to run it down through and I'm going to cut this off so we have a nice square edge on that. I need to really get the full 3/4 if I can. We'll square this edge off. The whole goal is going to be, after I get those two there, I need approximately 14 inches of good wood to build it. Like I said, I want to have a step that's 7 inches tall. So actually I could drop that back a little bit to get to 7 inches, and then 7 inches there overall height because we have our step on there. So first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and square this up, and we'll lay the rest of it out and we'll show you what it looks like with that. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this to you in case you've never laid out a set of steps before. I've kind of laid this out. And on this one, I've actually got both of them laid out, both sides. So I want to show you how I went about laying them out. So what I wanted was approximately a 7 inches step, and then I'm going to have my second one's going to be a 7-inch step. So in order to do that, you have to allow for your actual top board here. So your top board, whatever it is, mine's a little less than 3/4 of an inch. This really doesn't matter a whole lot because I'm not that concerned with it. But you'd have to calculate that if it was setting there. So when you go to calculate this dimension on the first step, you have to take this off of it to get your 7 inches. So I set that on there, and when I measure from the top down to there, I'm a little bit, about 6 3/4 of an inch, say, almost 7 inches from, I don't know if you can kind of see that. So you have to take that off and mark that as though that. So this dimension is going to be closer to 6 inches, and then I add almost 3/4 of an inch on this, which would be giving me 6 3/4 inches. So once I've done that, now this next line that goes up to your second step also wants to be the same dimension as this. So it's 6 3/4 here. You want this to be 6 3/4 from the top of this step to the top of this step. So you would measure that. Of course, you're going to add basically your 6 inches again here, just like you did down here. We had that 6 inches to the bottom of that step. So if you go from the top of this to the bottom of this step, it's going to be 6 inches. And that'll give you your height overall, 7 inches here almost, and then from the top of this one to there, it's going to be about 7 inches, and that's what you want to do, is get that as equal as you can. So hope that kind of shows you what you do to lay that out. And of course, we came back. This board's about 7 inches long. A little better, it's just a little over 7 inches. So I cut this at right at 7 inches deep, and that'll give us, as you can see on the line here, just a little bit of an overhang on the end down here. So that just looks a little nicer, I think. So like I say, now all we got to do is do our cutout and cut out here. Follow the lines, and we'll have our two sides and be ready to go. So I'll go ahead and hit the saw, table saw, jigsaw, bandsaw, whatever combination I need to do. And depending on what tools you have, that's what you'll have to do also. Okay, we got those cut out, and with the sample treads on there, you can see what it's going to basically look like when we get done. We'll have to do a little bit of caulking and stuff to get these edges here to look a little better probably. I don't know, we'll see how that goes. So our next gap stop is going to be, though, we have to have boards in between here to lengthen this thing up to make it the right width that we want. And we'll have to do that in several places and make sure that we have a good border underneath each of the steps to make sure they're plenty strong enough to hold everything up. We'll have to just kind of go and see what we do, but we'll do a little combination of maybe dadoing this out and allowing that board to sit back in, and some of them will just be in between it maybe. So we'll see how it ends up and how I feel as I go along. We'll kind of show you when we get to them. Okay, so what we've done is I've decided to go ahead and just use my Craig jig. If y'all have ever seen one of those, they're very handy. I've got it set up. So what we'll do is pocket hole these. And to pocket hole this, basically you're going to be running it in to give you a place to put your screws. And so my screw's going to go in to the back side of this. And screws in and will attach to the sides and hold everything together. We'll probably put just a touch of glue on here too, just to make sure when we go to glue them all together, put it all together. And the way you do that is you set your jig up and you'll set this down into it and you clamp it in and simply take the drill and drill holes in it. So we're going to do that with each of our slats here, and we're going to end up putting them in several different locations in between here to hold everything together. So they'll sit back in this side here. Well, my boards are overall made those 24. I'm going to go ahead and make this base 23. That gives me a 1/2 inch overhang on each side. Kind of looks nice that way, which means each of these boards in the middle, if we measure it, I think it come out to about, well, if we do 24, we only want to make it approximately 23 for a total. That means we're going to make these boards, that minus those two is 21.5 inches. I might just make it 21, give that a little bit more overhang. I think that's what I'll do. So I'm going to cut me several of these to a pocket hole in there, and let's see if we can show you. It's about 21 inches, and that should give us a good dimension between there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all my little slats up to 21 inches, and we'll pocket hole them and show you how they go together. Okay, one other thing I'm kind of thinking of as I go through this, when this sits on the floor in the bedroom, this flat surface right here, if there's any kind of carpet and that kind of thing, if it's a little bit uneven, this is going to rock as we get up on it. I think what I want to do is just take a little bit out of the center of this, so I've kind of marked it. I'm going to just take a bandsaw. I'm just going to do kind of an arch in there. That way when it sets down on the ground, it'll have 4 legs to sit on versus big long things here where if there is any unevenness, it'll have a tendency to do a lot more rocking. So we're going to throw it on a bandsaw and just kind of carve that out a little bit. Okay, I cut a little bit out. Like I say, I don't think I need a whole lot. I'll go ahead and sand that down, and I think we'll go ahead and run the router around this too, just to kind of make that a little bit prettier edge. And for now, and that's probably easier to do now rather than later. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this out to smooth that out and router that edge off. See how that looks. Okay, I've got all the bracing put in. You can see all the pocket holes everywhere, holding it together in glue so far. And now the only thing will be lots of sanding. And then when we get all done, we'll just, the pocket holes here will come up in and hold these in place. And we'll have us a set of steps. So, like I say, a lot of sanding and whatever, and then we'll probably put a little coat of something on this to finish that off. Probably it'll be paint. I think I like the contrast. We'll see. Just let you see it when we're all done. Okay, and day has gone by, and I have sanded it down. We've put a coat of paint on it, and the only thing left to do with it is to go ahead and set the steps on it. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and just add some glue here, and then we'll run the screws in from the bottom side. So when we get done, we'll center that up, and we'll center this one up, and should give us the look I think I want, and we'll go ahead and call that pretty good. So I'll go ahead and glue that up and put the screws to her. Okay, we've got it all put back together and screwed down. I think it's looks pretty good. We'll call that a successful project. So we'll go set this in the house and see if the wife likes it all right. And we'll call that a good project. And I hope you liked the little project we had here today. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button and hit the little like. Any comments, always welcome those. And we'll go ahead and get started on the next project. Thanks again for watching.